So, the 1920s just so happened to be the years that naval aviation took off. When people ask me what I want to do when I get out of high school, I'm all like, yeah, I'm looking into the Navy. Maybe I'll major in aerospace engineering or just pursue something along the lines of aviation. And they stare at me like, oh, so military and aviation. You're looking into the Air Force. And I immediately correct them like, no, I'm talking about the Navy. And it astounds me that some people actually don't know of the aviation side of the Navy. And it's not about ships and sailing and all that. And I have to explain how aviation came to place. And if we just take this back to 1908 and establish some ground information, we'll meet Lieutenant George C. Sweet. This man and naval constructor William McKenzie both traveled to observe the Wright brothers at Fort Myer in Virginia. These two shared the common interest of pursuing the idea of using planes as a military force. Now, you see, the Air Force hadn't become a branch in the military officially until September of 1947, so the Air Force was kind of beaten out by the Navy. But if that offended any Air Force cadets out there, I apologize, and I'd like to say I support you all. But now we're going to get back to the Navy. The Navy's been around since October of 1775, sailing seas and patrolling blockades, mainly just kicking butt. So over 100 years later, the waterworks evolved into a completely different aspect. And let's fast forward this to the 1920s. Now this is the good stuff. Captain T.T. Craven became the first director of aviation and began bombing tests. These bombing tests were funded by the $3.5 million that were given as a Naval Reserve and Flying Corps. And 10 planes were also loaned out of that money. So this is how all this started off. And he wasn't very pleased or satisfied with the bombings on land, so he decided to take this out to sea. As he took this out to sea, he began a mission against a German ship, and it says USS, but that's not correct. But it is that other word that I can't pronounce. But this ship was targeted efficiently and sunk to the bottom of the ocean where it still lies.
On aircraft R-38ZR-2, an incident occurred causing several lives to be lost, including 16 Americans and Air Commodore Maitland and Commander L.H. Maxfield. The plane broke into two parts and landed into the Humber River. Soon-to-be famous battle cruisers USS Lexington and USS Saratoga were incomplete, but by the time they were agreed to be aircraft carriers. Lady Lex, as they called her, resulted in a fate under the surface, as did her sister ship, Sarah. Naval aviation began with high hopes, accomplishments, and some tragedies throughout the golden years. Though it was a rocky start, the 20s gathered many naval heroes, such as Lieutenant Charles Rosendahl, a survivor of the Shenandoah crash, and the commander of the USS Los Angeles, an airship commissioned in 1924, outliving the 20s until decommissioned in 1933. Commodore John Rogers and his crew attempted to fly nonstop from San Francisco to Hawaii, but went down at sea early in the trial. Air racer and Lieutenant Alfred Williams set a world record of speed for 100 and 200 kilometers during the Pulitzer races. All these victories of the decade had silenced the critics and began a promising future for the naval aviation.